Hello class, Mr. Hanson again. Today we're going to talk about polynomials, and we're going to define a lot of different words today, look at some examples of polynomials. I guess this isn't the best marker. Let's see if we can get a different one. So polynomials, fancy word for mathematical structure. I guess that's the key word, structure. How numbers are structured. We're not going to get into a lot of the theory yet today, but we'll look at some examples. So polynomials is a big family of these structure things I've been talking about. Some subgroups. The first subgroup we'll look at are called mono. Prefix mono means one, right? So this is a one-term polynomial. It's called a monomial. Monomials are made up of, if I give you an example, they could be made up of numbers. So just a constant by itself is a monomial. You could have an x with it, a variable. So 7x would be a monomial. You could raise it to a power. So 7x to the fourth is a monomial. The only thing that's missing from monomials are adding and subtracting signs. Okay? So monomials are one term. One term. Okay? Well, what do we call something with two things? If you think of a bicycle, bicycles have two wheels, so it would make sense that a binomial is a polynomial with two different terms. So the next category we'll look at is what's called a binomial, two terms. So to build two terms, if I take this original 7x plus 4, or 7x to the fourth power, 7x to the fourth power, and I want to make it a binomial, now if I add an addition or subtraction sign, for example, something like that, 7x to the fourth plus 3, that now becomes a binomial. The terms are separated by the plus sign in this case, or it could be subtraction. So this would be your first term, this would be your second term. And again, these polynomials can be made up of variables, numbers, multiplying, dividing, but there you won't see any adding or subtracting for monomials until you get to a binomial. So this is kind of rambled there, but let me just explain this again. This is another example of a binomial. You can't combine the like terms, right? 7x to the fourth is a different term than 3 to the x. So if I had you simplify this polynomial, this would already be simplified all the way. So in short, two terms, if a polynomial has two terms, it's called a binomial. And the last one we'll look at with a special name is called a trinomial. Tri, like a tricycle. Tricycle has three wheels. A trinomial, or a trinomial, depending on how you want to pronounce it, has it's a polynomial with three terms. Okay, and again, terms are separated by adding and subtracting. So, example: if I had 2x to the fifth plus 7x plus 1, this would be an example of a trinomial. There's one term, two terms, three terms. Another example might be negative x plus 4 y to the 10th plus 2 cubed. Okay, that's another example of a trinomial. Here's another example. It doesn't always have to be adding. It could be, let's say, 3x minus 6 minus 5y. Okay, if the terms are separated by adding and subtracting. So a trinomial has three terms. Alright, so let's talk a little bit about the parts of a polynomial. So like I said before, polynomials are structures of numbers. And like I said, we'll look at the theory and the structure a little later, but today I just want to get down to the nuts and bolts of what you need to know for the mechanical part of it. So here's an example. Let's see if I can get a marker that works a little better. Let's say I had x plus 7 x cubed minus 4 x squared. Okay, so first off, we can categorize this by the number of terms. Number of terms would be 1, 2, 3. So this would be a trinomial. However, we can categorize polynomials a different way. We can categorize them by the degree of the polynomial. Let me write that down. The degree of the polynomial. Okay? And what this equates to is the degree of a polynomial is the highest exponent in the polynomial. The highest exponent in the polynomial. Okay, I'll give you a second to write that down. Okay, so if I look at this example up here, this x is to the first power, 7x cubed, this is to the third power, this term, and negative 4x squared is to the second. So the degree of this polynomial would equate to 3. This would be called a third degree polynomial. So it's just another way we can categorize these structures. Okay, let me look at another example. Here's another example of a polynomial. Let's say I have 10 minus y to the fifth. Okay, if we categorize this polynomial by the number of terms, it would be a binomial. And the degree of the polynomial is 5. So this would be a fifth degree polynomial. Okay, fifth degree polynomial. Sorry about that. Because again, the highest exponent is 5. And it doesn't matter if that term comes first, second, third. You just scan the whole polynomial, find the exponent that has the highest one. And when I say that, I'm talking about polynomials in only one variable. When we introduce polynomials, like for example, if I put an x here, okay, that degree is a little bit different. But we're just going to focus right now on one variable polynomials. All right, so let me just kind of give you a breakdown of special names we give for categorizing polynomials by degree. Okay, so I'll write the word degree up here. You might want to write this table in your notes. We'll put the name, and then we'll give an example. Good graphic organizer. All right, and I'll apologize, I made that a little too big, but I'll move the screen when we need to. All right, what if you have a 0 degree polynomial? Well, we call those constants. Okay, for example, like I used before, the number 7 is a constant, right? This is to, technically, class, we could put x to the 0 power there, right? So remember, the 0 is the highest exponent in the polynomial. In this example, that would be the degree. So we all know that any base to the 0 power is 1. So we'd have 7 times 1, which is just 7. So any constant, the name we give a polynomial of degree 0, is called a constant. All right, you all know what a first degree polynomial is. They are called lines. They're linear functions, right? Remember we talked about that? Mx plus b, remember? So if you have like 2x plus 7, the degree of this polynomial is 1. Any polynomial to the first degree is going to be a line if you graph it. It has a linear relationship with a constant slope. So this would be what we call a polynomial of degree 1. It's called a line. Now if you remember from Algebra 2, I'm just going to do this in a different color to change things up. A second degree polynomial is a parabola, a quadratic. Remember parabolas? Okay, so for example, you might have 2x squared plus x plus 3. Okay, If the highest power is 2, it's called a quadratic. And the degree of that polynomial would be 2. Let me see if I can adjust this a little bit. There, that's a little better. Okay, and then the third, if you have a third degree polynomial, that is called a cubic function, something cubed. For example, x cubed minus 5. Okay, the power of this, or the degree of the polynomial is 3. We call it a cubic function. And the fourth degree polynomial is the last one we'll look at for special name. And we don't use this verbiage very much, but we call this a quartic. Q-U-A-R-T-I-C. And anything to the fourth power would be a quartic function. Okay, so the bottom line, what I've covered so far, you just need to know that we can categorize polynomials 2 different ways. One by the degree, the highest exponent in the polynomial, and the other way to categorize them or group them is by the number of terms. Okay, so that's the main objective right now. All right, I'm going to make a second video quick to shorten this up a little bit, and we'll do some more examples on polynomials.